Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for stopping by Casks-n-Que, where whiskey and barbecue meet. I'm your host, Justin Lloyd, and today I have with me my buddy Henry.
Hello.
So today we're going to do something cool. We're going to start a Scotch series. The Game of Thrones released, how many Scotches?
It was 9 Scotches all together, 8 at one time, and then 1 after the show was ended.
Gotcha. Okay. And we're going to review all those on the series.
Yeah, we're going to go through every one of them over the next month and a half or so.
Awesome. So let's get started. So the first one we're going to review in our series is Cardhu Gold Reserve. It's a Speyside single malt Scotch whiskey, and it's the House of Targaryen Fire and Blood. So Henry, can you tell me a little bit about the House of Targaryen, what the three-headed dragon is, and Fire and Blood? I don't know what that means. I've watched the series, of course, but I'm not nearly as astute as you are when it comes to Game of Thrones.
Yeah, well, the first thing that I'll say is if it wasn't for Game of Thrones scotches, beer, and whiskey, and all the spirits, I wouldn't chase bourbon at all. This is kind of what really got me started, so I really am happy to do this review today. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So the first thing I want to talk about is the reason why this distillery, Cardhu, was actually picked to go with this particular house. And that's because the people who started this distillery was a woman. Her and her daughters actually started this distillery in Scotland, and because she was a strong woman who started her own distillery, that partners up with Daenerys Targaryen, who was the most famous at this time Targaryen in the TV series. And then the one thing I want to talk about is the three-headed dragon that's on here. It actually represents the 3 people that came over to Westeros in this fictional universe that we all love. That came and conquered Westeros and unified, and that was King Aegon, and that was his 2 sisters, which was Rhaenyra and Visenya, and they came over and conquered it on their 3 dragons. So it doesn't actually represent a 3-headed dragon. It represents the 3 Targaryens that came over from Valyria to conquer Westeros.
It's interesting. I'm glad you know all that stuff because I sure as heck don't.
Look here, I will sit around and talk about Game of Thrones all day and drink scotch while we do it. So, well,
I definitely could handle that. Yeah. If you ever see one of these containers, then there's a neat little story on the back. So pretty cool. All right, well, let's open this thing up and give it a pour and taste it, nose it, and talk about it.
Let's go for it.
So this one is a light gold color. Looks very crisp, almost reminds me of apple juice. The legs on this thing, yep, you got some teardrops coming down the leg. It's got some viscosity to it. So yeah, I would call this a light gold color. And I'm not sure if there's any color added. I would think not, because it's not a deep, rich color like some of the other scotches are that have color added. All right, so we have this poured in our glass. You got your House of Targaryen glass.
Loving it.
Let's give it a nose and see what kind of aromas we pick up.
All right.
Classic Speyside. I know you're not a Scotch guy, right?
No, and I'm really not. I'm gonna do my best to kind of give some nosing. Anything I get off the nose or anything I get off the palate. But for me, the one thing that I pick up is, because I drink so much bourbon and rye, is you can definitely tell the base distillate's a little bit different. I would say it's similar, very close to medicinal, but I don't think it's off-putting. But maybe that's just the base distillate having just a different smell for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see where people get that, that iodine smell sometimes from Scotch.
A little bit, but not off-putting.
Yeah, it's just it's medicinal type of thing. Like you said, it's not off-putting, but noticeable if you're hunting for it. It's a real clean smell to me. I would say you get some apple, like a light fruit.
I might get a little maybe apricot off of this, and a little bit of sweetness, some kind of sweet fruit in there.
Yeah, some sweet fruit, definitely some sweet fruit. But it just what pops in my mind is just like a clean, crisp smell. It's hard to describe.
Yeah, the one thing that I'd say though is I really think with this being Targaryen and Fire and Blood being their motto, I would have expected a lot more smoke coming off of something that represents his house.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that isn't in there yet. We'll definitely get into the palate, but that was something I was kind of looking forward to when I got into this bottle. But of course, I'm a bit of a novice when it comes to scotches.
Yeah, that's a good take. I did notice on the container there that it said Fire and Blood, and I was thinking, it would be really cool if they, like you said, if there was a peaty whiskey and maybe some deeper, rich, more sherry color to it. Well, let's give it a taste. I like that a lot.
For being so low proof, I'm getting a nice spice off
I am
of it.
too.
It's super sweet.
It's a 40%, right?
Yeah.
40% ABV.
And we're talking about here, you don't have that peated smoke that's going to come across and be off-putting. So none of that's there at all. Actually, this is extremely enjoyable.
At 40, this drink, like if a bourbon is 80 proof, a lot of times you don't notice much. It just kind of disappears. And other scotches are that way too. I shouldn't compare it to bourbon, but this at 40%, I don't think needs more alcohol.
No,
because it's got some spice. It's got like I still taste it. It's got a long finish, oily and mouth coating.
Yeah, very viscous and everything. And honestly, for this bottle right now, we can talk a little bit about the availability on it. So this bottle was made 5 years ago, around season 6 of Game of Thrones is when Diageo released this. And so season 7 and 8, these have been sitting around. You can still find these bottles some places locally. I believe here in Arkansas, if you stop by Colonial, Crossroads, or even Warehouse Liquor in downtown Little Rock, they still have some of these bottles. The prices vary on these, so you're looking at between this one I've seen online, $50 to $75. I would not overpay for these. So don't let somebody tell you these are $200 or $300. This bottle is 5 years old. It's good stuff in the bottle, but I definitely wouldn't pay secondary pricing for this.
And when you say the bottle's 5 years old, the Scotch is older than that.
Yeah.
I know there's a Cardhu 12, so if I remember correctly, and if you know the exact age in the comments, go ahead and let us know in the comments below, but I think this is a 12-year-old as well.
Yeah, and it's just, this was released 5 years ago when it was coming out with the show.
Yeah. Just going back to the palate on this, it coats your mouth. It's got some spice to it. I get the oak influence for sure. The oak spice is there.
Yeah.
Get some vanilla, and it's like light apples to me, kind of like maybe like a green apple almost.
Yeah, I'm thinking like orange sherbet or something like that.
I can see that.
Yeah, just something very light. Even I know it's hot right now, it's the middle of the summer, but this really has a refreshing flavor to it when it comes to me for Scotch.
You know what? This would be really nice to drink, like if you're outside somewhere sitting by the pool and pour this over rocks.
Yeah.
It'd be all right.
Yeah, wouldn't be too terrible.
Yeah. And I think it's really approachable too for people that don't really care for Scotch. I think that when you nose it, it's not going to be like, oh my gosh. Some people say all Scotches are smoky and that's why they don't like them. That's not true. There's different regions and different flavors. Now, of course, there are smoky Scotches, but this is not one of them.
Yeah, and I definitely say for somebody who's just a fan of the show and actually wanted to get something that was going to be an expression that you could drink along with the show, this is going to be extremely approachable. And especially with House of the Dragon being out right now, this will be a bottle I definitely get myself a pour up before the show or during the show and watch it as I am enjoying this nice Scotch. Yep.
All right, well, let's go ahead and rate this thing.
All right.
So we always give ratings from 1 to 10, 10 being excellent, 1 being poor. So we take into consideration availability, taste, and value. So with those 3 things in mind, where are you at?
Honestly, on this one, and I wish I could say more, I'm just not into Scotches as much, but I would put this one right at about a 6.5. I don't think it's bad, but I think for the price point, availability, what it means to somebody who's a fan of the show, that's exactly where I would put it. I don't think it's the best Scotch I've ever had in my life or one of the best pours I had in my life. But for somebody who's a novice with Scotch, this is extremely enjoyable, and I am definitely glad that I own this bottle and been able to share it with you.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing. I'm going to go a notch higher. I think I'm about a 7.5 on it. I really like this one. A 7.5 is a good score. It's solid. I think the only thing that brings it down for me is the availability. Like you said, it's not everywhere, but we have seen it on the shelves locally at least. So I'm at a 7.5. I think it's really good. As a matter of fact, I might start trying to collect these myself. It might be an undertaking, but I think I'm going to give it a shot.
My job here is done.
Well, Henry, thanks for stopping by today.
Yeah.
Again, this is a conclusion of our first episode in the series of Game of Thrones scotches. We're going to be dropping these probably every week, so be looking for those. So the best way to do that is to smash that bell. It's going to give you a notification whenever we drop a new video. Again, if you like this content, go ahead and like, subscribe, and again, smash that bell. We certainly appreciate it. Henry, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And we'll have a good time seeing everybody on Sundays for the show.
That's right.